Tonight on Country Squire Radio, we're talking pipe smokers from history and fiction.
Plus a pipe question on hunting down the best price of a pipe.
Quickfire questions, your feedback, and more happening right now on Country Squire Radio. Welcome to Country Squire Radio. I'm Bo.
And I'm John David.
JD.
Hey, Bo. Good evening, man.
Man, good evening to you, sir. How you doing tonight?
You know, I'm a little stressed out, but I'm doing okay. Yeah, it's been a really busy weekend and day around the shop, which is exciting. But yeah, doing well. We had Celtic Fest this weekend, which is our annual convention here in Jackson of all folks that are obsessed with things of Celtic nature.
Well, and things without Celtic nature as well. We've talked about it before, but Celtic Fest is historically anyway been the place where Mississippians come to let their freak flag fly.
Boy, you're not kidding, man.
Much love to this one individual, because I feel like we got to talk about him. But there was one individual in particular who came to Celtic Fest, and then for those of you who are not familiar, Celtic Fest, you would hear that and think, okay, the kind of an Irish, Scottish.
Yeah, it meets kind of Renaissance fair.
Yeah. That's kind of the mindset.
Yeah.
Homeboy came dressed up as a Jedi.
Right.
Now, when you see him, you think, okay, maybe he's like a cleric or a monk or something of that nature. A druid, like Druidism, that was like a Celtic thing. Mm-hmm. But no, he actually had strapped to his side a lightsaber. And
it was legit.
And so after being ridiculed, which I don't think it was fair to ridicule him, because again, let your freak flag fly. That's fine. I'm very much in support of cosplay. I don't participate myself, but I do appreciate it. But I will say this, after all the flack that he got, he ended up buying a cane, hiding his lightsaber. And when I went up to ask him, "Are you a druid or a monk?"
Yeah,
he just said, "Yes."
So, you got to give him props for being authentic in a environment that screams authenticity.
Right. But no, overall, man, Celtic Fest this year, kind of a little bit of a bust.
Yeah, it was really slow this year. So, I don't really know, what that was about. Obviously, in the Deep South, we've got lots of football games, and, the weather, and just stuff going on. So you never know. But the turnout was a little down. But we did sell a few pipes and had a really good time, and drank a whole lot of Guinness.
Yeah. That is that to me has always historically been my favorite part of Celtic Fest is the Squire goes out. You guys have kind of almost like a little lounge area that you put up. Got to meet a good friend of yours, which was also very special.
Yeah.
And then also it was the usual suspects really, and it was a lot of fun out there. So a great time had by all, even though it was a little slow. But man, you know what's not going to be slow? You know what is going to be a great weekend? Not a good weekend, a great weekend.
New Orleans, baby.
New Orleans! Country Squire Radio live.
2016, man. October 22nd, right?
October 22nd. Now, I was coming on the show tonight. I was planning and hoping to have a big announcement on the location. However, I still haven't gotten the confirmation. I've been hounding them, trying to get that confirmed. But I can tell you this, because I know a lot of people are kind of waiting for a little bit more details to solidify their travel plans. Here's the deal. The layout of the way that we think things are going to go, or at least we hope things are going to go, is in the afternoon of October 22nd is when we will actually do the live show at a location that is yet to be announced. Then afterwards, maybe going around getting little oysters, if you will, maybe little cocktails, however you want to do it.
Yeah.
And then going from there to the long smoke competition. And then afterwards, you get the full-on Frenchman Street tour with myself leading the charge there. I think it'll be a blast. So I know there was a little bit of confusion on how that was all going to go down, but here's what you need to do. If you're coming down, and you should, or if you're even considering coming down, you should. Make your plans to be there the afternoon and evening of October 22nd.
That's it.
You can go home the next day, so make sure you have a place to stay that night. But that is what we got for now. Hopefully next week I'll have the confirmation on the location. Because if it's a place in particular that I really want to do it, I think it would be so cool. I've talked to them a couple of times. We just have not gotten it confirmed yet.
Yeah, we're real close.
Real close. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's this year. Now, next year around this time, something's happening.
Dude, it's exciting. Our good friend Pylorns in Texas, he wanted us to make sure we announced, and they have released as of yesterday, I believe, that the Dallas-Fort Worth area will be hosting the Texas Pipe Show next year.
Woo!
And that's in fall of 2017.
Yeah.
So, man, real exciting. Yeah. It'll be just a lot of, the Texas pipe clubs getting together, focusing on this. They're going to have it in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It'll be the Texas Pipe Show. And, it'll be, like I said, just kind of a group effort from all your different Texas Pipe Club entities. And should be a great time. they wanted me to be sure to make aware that they have not released a date for this yet, but it is highly, highly likely that the date of the Texas Pipe Show will be either the last weekend in September of 2017 or the first weekend in October of next year. So, so one of those two, that kind of time slot. They're waiting on a few things to kind of pan out, but really exciting, man. Yeah. Texas Pipe Show first, and maybe the first of many. So something exciting, and we look forward to getting more details on that.
Absolutely, and we will keep you posted as we do get more details.
Easy drive from Jackson too. Only 5 hours or so. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, is it?
5. I will say this: if it's 5 hours, that is within my I've got if it's over 6 hours, I fly. That is the rule, and I will not drive over 6 hours. But even I'm starting to lower that down because I mean you can appreciate this. You were reciting the entrepreneur's mantra earlier. I heard you saying there's just never enough time. That is the entrepreneur's mantra.
You're not kidding, man.
And so that your time becomes way more valuable than anything else. And so I might be moving that 6 hour down to maybe 4.5. I don't know. We'll see.
So lame.
I'll drive to New Orleans or Memphis, but beyond that, I'm flying. How about that? That'll work. Man, hey, speaking of stuff that's going down, you guys actually have an event happening this week. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this coming Wednesday.
Yeah. It's actually a cigar-related event, but yeah, we've got a brand of cigars, DBL, small boutique brand of cigars. We've got a local rep here that is a really good friend of the shop, Joe Hill, and he'll be here Wednesday. It's only $10 a head. You get 2 premium hand-rolled cigars, generally thought of to be kind of a 2-for-1 value.
Yeah.
And so, man, it's going to be fun. We'll have some cocktails and lots of good smokes and good fellowship. So if you're in the area on Wednesday, come on by.
That sounds awesome, man. We've also, for those of you who may be interested in the San Francisco area, we're going to try to do a listener meetup, not this week, but next week.
That is awesome.
September the 21st or 23rd or 22nd, probably the 21st or the 22nd. One of those days, listener actually Kirby Booth.
Yeah, Kirby. He's actually made a pilgrimage here to the Squire.
Is that right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
has.
awesome.
Sure has. Him and his lovely wife.
Wait, was he the one that had the big camper?
No,
that was somebody else.
No, that correct. But
okay.
But yeah, Kirby around from the Bay Area, kind of the northern part of the Bay Area there, and devoted friend and listener of the show, and he wants to get together with you if you're in that part of the world.
Absolutely. So let's y'all follow, of course, at Squire Radio on Twitter. If you want to follow me at The Real Bo York, I'll have more information for you. But I'll be there. Kirby will be there, and we may post something to Facebook too. Sometimes that's easier for rallying the troops, so to speak.
Are you going to San Francisco?
Oh yeah, I'm going to San Francisco. Have we not talked about this?
No.
Okay, yeah. So
what are you doing there?
So next week, Briar and I, my co-founder of Satchel and I, we're going to San Francisco. We've got a couple of meetings there, and then afterwards we're going to LA Podfest in Los Angeles, where we'll be. We're actually a sponsor. Satchel is actually a sponsor of that event. So,
dude, that's exciting.
Yeah, we got a table. We'll be giving out buttons and shirts and encouraging folks to get the content on Satchel. And
good.
I'm very much looking forward to it. I've never actually been out that way. So from what Kirby was telling me, there's not a huge pipe scene in the San Francisco area, which is kind of surprising to me, honestly. I would have thought that would have been a good pipe scene.
I think they've eradicated most of us.
That's crazy to me. But I will say this, man. So we're going out there. We're going to do that. He mentioned one particular shop, and I won't mention the name because we're going to try to reach out to the shop because apparently it's like, they got like this luxury lounge or something like that. It's members only. But he was saying maybe you can try to drop some of that internet fame and see if we can finagle our way.
Try to get in.
So we'll see about that. But one way or the other, yeah, man. San Francisco. That again, probably the 21st or 22nd. More details to come. We'll definitely have more details on next week's episode.
That's exciting.
All right, man. And then, before we jump into this week's topic, we got one last item to discuss, and that is an upcoming episode.
That's right.
And I'm thinking actually next week's episode,
being
a pipe culture episode on pets.
This is interesting to me.
Yeah,
just the thought of this, when we started discussing this as an option, this will be fascinating to see where people take this.
It's just there's something iconic about kind of sitting there smoking your pipe and having your dog, maybe your lap cat or something like that. Having the animals being able to spend some time just scratching your dog, scratching your cat, smoking your pipe. And I feel like there might be something there. Maybe there's not. We might get tons of feedback saying you're crazy. I never smoked my pipe, and my pipe has nothing to do with my pets, and I have no stories related to this. In which case, it'll be a very uninteresting episode. But I will tell you this: a lot of you have already sent in your information, so I know that's not the case.
That's it.
So we've got some great content. This pipe culture is really a chance for us to turn the mics back over to you. Y'all send in your thoughts, your stories, your shared experiences, and we will read those and share those on the program, again, surrounding the topic of pets.
It doesn't have to be a cat or a dog. It could be a gerbil or a goldfish,
a tarantula,
a ferret, or a scorpion.
A scorpion, a cougar,
your pet mongoose,
perhaps a dinosaur. Maybe you have the last dinosaur out there. I don't know. That was terrible.
That's a pet bird.
Do you remember Denver? Do you remember Denver, the Last Dinosaur?
No.
Denver, the Last Dinosaur.
What is that?
It was like a 90s cartoon. I don't know. I'm going too far back. You know what I need to do, man? You know what I need to do right now?
What's that?
I really need to wake up.
And you know what would be helpful for that?
Oh, bean fruit coffee.
It would. It sure would.
Absolutely, man. A cup of bean fruit. We actually have bean fruit coffee somewhere in the shop. We don't have it in front of us right now. Actually, maybe I took it home.
One of us may have.
I got to tell you, it's great coffee. There's no reason why you wouldn't want to snatch it up every single chance to get. And actually, if you go over to beanfruit.com and use the code CSR, you can actually get yourself 5% off when you actually order a bag of bean fruit coffee. These are hand selected beans from the biggest coffee bean nerd that I have ever met. Really, really great quality stuff. You're not going to find coffee like it anywhere else. We've already heard from several of you who have sampled the coffee. You love it. You've converted over. This is now your primary method of caffeine, and that's awesome. So bean fruit coffee, again, CSR. Use that code, 5% off at checkout, and it helps support this show. Tonight,
dude, interesting, series that we're bringing back from quite a hiatus.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while. The last time we did a one of these was when we actually did I think it was The Most Interesting Man in the World, and even that was kind of a stretch from the traditional Heroes of the Bowl. Which,
sure.
For those of you, if this is your first time hearing an episode that is entitled Heroes of the Bowl, if this is your first foray into this particular series that we do, this is where we take pipe smokers from history or fiction. John David, being something of a historian, takes a pipe smoker from history. Me, being something of a slacker, takes something from fiction, and we discuss each character and kind of their love of the pipe and how that may or may not play into their everyday craft.
I like how you associated slackerism and fiction.
Well, I'm just thinking, like, what do I watch on TV? Comics or video games or otherwise. That's how I do it. But I will say this, one of the things that I think we like to make sure to say before diving into this is the title Heroes of the Bowl, which is the title of the series. When we say heroes, we're kind of more of saying we're not necessarily saying these are actual heroes.
Yeah, that's true. That's right. Yeah.
Soldiers, firefighters, there are actual heroes in the world. And
we talk about those at some point.
We do.
Right?
We do. And some of the people that we've talked about have kind of fallen into that category.
Right.
And occasionally some of the fictional characters have been actual superheroes.
That's correct.
But that does not necessarily mean we're kind of using that term a little bit lightly. In fact, for mine today, the person I'm going to be talking about
quite lightly.
Yeah. Just skirting the line right there. But yeah, let's. Should we kick it off? You want to kick us off with?
Yeah, man, this is exciting. So, we talk about over the 20th century, just all the famous pipe smokers that come to mind, and there's so many to pick from. And I thought we'd talk about an individual that's kind of very interesting, but someone that you may or may not be as familiar with if you're not, well read and some more deep kind of philosophical thought of the 20th century, and that is Bertrand Russell. Bertrand Russell is a British philosopher, thinker, scientist, mathematician. He's one of these interesting folks that have a varied set of attributes that just make him a fascinating case study for critical thinking in the 20th century. Yeah. So you've got this individual from Great Britain, actually from Wales. He's born in a Welshman.
He runs like a Welshman.
He runs like a Welshman. What does that even mean? But he does.
Yeah. He does, yeah.
He does.
I mean, he would have to.
He was born in 1872, and Bertrand Russell, again, throughout the 20th century, kind of mainly known as this philosopher, writer, mathematician, but really kind of set himself apart in in the area of social commentary. He was one of those, think of kind of a modern Noam Chomsky or someone that, had a lot of detailed work in very esoteric areas that, maybe obscure to the average person out there just kind of going through daily life, but very well thought of academically, but was one of these personalities that was called on very often when maybe a news organization or some academic organization needed a highly educated person with an opinion,
like a specialist.
Yeah, kind of a specialist or almost a talking head. I hate to call him that because he was so much more than that, and such a brilliant person, whether you agree with his philosophies or not.
18th century talking head. I'm just trying to figure out what the equivalent of that would be.
I know, right? Yeah. But yeah, so Bertrand Russell, again, kind of known to be this social commentator along with his critical thinking, and very influential through the last century. His parents were actually of nobility, which is interesting because he came from a very privileged background, but essentially became known throughout his life as a kind of soft embracer of socialism and and to some extent even communism, depending on what day you caught him on. But he's one of those people that just really I think had a interest in the state taking an active role in government and in people's lives and things of that nature. But
sort of counter to his upbringing.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think is kind of an interesting dichotomy. But interestingly enough, even though he was a child of nobility, he was actually basically left abandoned to his grandmother, and so raised by his grandmother, and then with tutors and whatnot, became at a very early age very well learned and different languages, French, German, and on from there. So started a career initially as a mathematician, where he wrote one of his first great works, The Principles of Mathematics. And what's funny is, and again, this is kind of an esoteric area for folks that frankly, like you and me, that don't study a lot of these really high-minded thought processes. I mean, I can't tell you last time I read a book on logic or something like that.
I can guarantee it was a lot more recent than I have.
I know. I don't think I doubt I have actually, but yeah. So he in The Principles of Mathematics, he even dared to explore the rules for which mathematic truths can be proven. Which, I mean, you talk about the depths of that. I mean, we're talking about someone that was very much a contemporary with someone like Einstein and things of that nature, another pipe smoker.
1 + 1 = 2. Why?
I know, right? So, eventually, as he became more and more accomplished just in academia, he also got more politically active. And so, was a war protester, kind of, fought against, mandatory conscription and that things of that nature. And after World War I, even got imprisoned because of some of his, thoughts along those lines. But
interesting.
As such a, high-minded kind of British thinker of the time, he was actually part of a group. Think about that time of the century. So you have World War I going on, and then towards the end of World War I, you have the Russians, actually, their empire collapses and the Bolshevik revolution takes over. And so you got the rise of communism in Russia. And there was a group that Great Britain sent over to Russia to kind of study the after effects of the Soviet Bolshevik revolution. And Bertrand Russell was one of the leaders of that group.
So this was after they like locked up the Tsar and burned his family or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They actually deposed him, and then I forget the timeline on this, but then several years later, actually assassinated their family.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah. Okay. Downton Abbey. That's how I know that.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. That has very, very much
the historian,
work.
The lazy man.
That's right. So anyway, along with that, became much more kind of enamored with some of the socialist philosophies, but eventually it became very well known during the 20th century for his work for nuclear disarmament. Okay, so he actually worked with Einstein, another famous pipe smoker who we've talked before about, and they had the Russell-Einstein Manifesto, which came out And this was right around the time, we're talking like, right after the Manhattan Project, and so we're at the kind of the peak of the frenzy of the whole world kind of pursuing this doomsday device, to make sure
Right.
they're the first ones that get it. And of course, it's debuted, and everyone's obviously on the American side are glad they have it, but the world is all of a sudden in jeopardy because of this proliferation. And so Albert Einstein and Bertrand Russell actually have this manifesto that they get most of the leading nuclear scientists at the time to sign, that just kind of encourages folks to disarm their nuclear stockpiles.
Like, hey, chill out, baby. We don't have to destroy the world. I don't
we
know.
don't have to do this.
Let's smoke pipes. It's fine. It's all right.
So anyway, eventually, just with all his various writings, wins a Nobel Prize in literature in 1950. And then continues to kind of advocate for peace and nuclear disarmament through the rest of his life. But one of those people that just provides a really interesting background. Again, someone that you may or may not agree with necessarily philosophically, but someone that had a strong input on the social kind of conversation in the 20th century, and someone that very much loved the pipe, and so we obviously thought we'd talk about him with that. He was a fan of the straight billiard and loved just a straight billiard pipe. Occasionally you'd see him with a bent pipe, but was more of a straight pipe smoker. And there is a mixture, and I believe you can still get it on the market. It's called Golden Mixture, and it was tinned and is still tinned by Freiburg and Trier.
Freiburg
and Trier. And they, if my understanding is right, it's kind of and I've never had it, but it's kind of a Virginia, just clean, light mixture that's not particularly cased with anything. So it's nowadays tinned by Planta, which I believe are the folks that do also the Solani tobaccos, which we've talked about some before on the show.
I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on this. Freiburg and Trier. Freiburg.
Yeah.
But Freiburg, was that somebody's name?
Apparently.
It sounds like they shot down a Borg cube, Star Trek,
right,
and then fried up a Borg. Like, hey there, Captain Picard, we got this here Freiburg. You try some of this?
Good with powdered sugar.
We'll beam you up some right now. Sprinkle that on there. Get that gravy. Good stuff. There you go. There's your 50th anniversary Star Trek reference.
That's it.
Happy?
That's it.
There we go. We did.
That's it. So many disgusted people across the podcast world. Right?
Freiburg.
But yeah. So and you can still get this golden mixture out there again. Tinned by Planta, and I think it comes in a 50-gram tin as well. But one thing that was interesting, he was an avid pipe smoker, one of these people that, along with other folks, he said things of the nature like, he's always smoking his pipe unless he's sleeping or eating, kind of thing.
Man.
And one thing I love, and this is just a really interesting kind of topic, but he can remember the exact day in which he became a pipe smoker and kind of fell in love with the pipe. And of course, this is someone, we're talking about someone that thinks on planes that you and I don't very much, and at least not regularly. And, he's contemplating these really lofty thoughts of existence and universe, and, the existence of God, and where we come from, and all these things. And he says he remembers the precise moment. He said, on one day in 1894, as I was walking along Trinity Lane, when I saw in a flash that the ontological argument, which is the existence of God, when he saw that was valid, he had gone out to buy a tin of tobacco, and on his way back, he suddenly threw it in the air and exclaimed as he caught it, "Great Scott, the ontological argument is sound." And that is when he fell in love with pipe tobacco.
So he fell in love with pipe tobacco and found God at the exact same moment.
Something like that. Yeah.
Brilliant.
It's just really interesting, someone that, could.
What an amazing story.
Think along all these different, planes, and that is the moment that he associates with falling in love with pipe smoking, which I think is really, really interesting. One of the most interesting stories I think that he does tell, though, is how he describes how smoking saved his life. And I love this. You can actually, I think there's a interview with him that you can actually hear him say this on YouTube. But so he says that he got on an airplane at one point, and we may have talked about this on the show before, but got on the airplane at one point and wanted to sit in the smoking section. And this plane, believe it or not, actually crashed. And the non-smoking section passengers were the ones that died. And he said that smoking saved his life.
Like, I realize there's a joke there. I just don't feel like it's.
It's like it's too soon, right?
Yeah, I mean, like that.
But still, isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
It's crazy.
That is absolutely crazy.
And yeah. So anyway, but that's Bertrand Russell.
Bertrand Russell.
That's it.
All right, so that's good. So the Einstein connection makes me feel a little bit bad that I was not familiar with them, because when you mentioned the name, I was like, it went completely over my head.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're not a student of 20th century philosophy and
then I'm not
linguistics and some of those things, you're just not going to be as familiar with them. And but I think he's certainly worth looking into as far as a critical thinker of our recent past.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, so that is our pipe smoker of history.
That's it.
I present to you, sir, Mr. John David, and
I'm excited to see where you go with this.
Okay, so this is someone
we always bring up the most interesting people. Where do y'all find these folks?
It's good stuff, man. It's I like to anytime I see somebody smoking a pipe, it means something. That one of the I guess benefits of pipe smoking not necessarily being in the zeitgeist, so to speak, is when you see it, it resonates with you, it sticks with you.
It does. It immediately stands out.
And there's also because it's not something that's not necessarily widely done, especially in film or any kind of visual medium. If they present a character who is smoking a pipe, there's generally almost a reason to it, right? Like it's a very specific decision. To have the character smoke a pipe. The character that we're talking about tonight is somebody I've mentioned before on the show, saying I wasn't sure whether or not to make him a villain or a hero, but I came down on it because by the time the series that he was on was done, he was somewhat of a quote unquote, well, I don't know if heroic character is right, but a good guy. He was more of a good guy to the main characters, not to everybody else, but to the main characters he was. Ladies and gentlemen, I am talking about Dr. Bob Kelso, a.k.a. Bobo, a.k.a. Bobcat, a.k.a. Bobatron, or just the devil to Dr. Cox. This is a character, of course, from the hit television series Scrubs.
I love that this is a thing. Yeah. So
did you watch Scrubs?
I watch episodes occasionally.
That's why you don't like people calling you JD.
But I can
because the main character's name is JD.
Yeah, he's all right though. He's likable.
He depends on the season.
Kind of a clumsy, likable protagonist.
Yeah. No.
Which I identify with.
I was about to say you could relate with him. That was the thing. Like he was sometimes a great guy and then sometimes a terrible person. But either way, you could kind of relate with him a little bit.
Yeah, no, sure.
Oh, he's terrible, just like I am. That's good. So all right. So when you're presented with the beginning of the series, you kind of have this character of JD, who is your kind of entry into the series. Like he's just gotten out of medical school. He's starting this is it internship? That's what they do, right?
They do they have I think sometimes they have an intern year, but then they have a residency.
Yeah. Right. So it's I think he actually starts up with his intern year and then moves into residency. Although I could have that wrong, but I will say this. So he goes in, you're introduced to all of these characters in this hospital. Dr. Cox, who he sees as a villain in his life story, because of course everything is kind of hyper drama in his life. And then Dr. Kelso, who's this kind of grandfatherly, nice figure who's kind of the hero.
Yeah.
But by the time the first episode is done, you realize it's quite the reverse. Even though the hard nosed Dr. Cox is just constantly on top of him, he's got the heart of gold and he's in it to save the day.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Dr. Kelso puts on this facade of being this grandfatherly figure, but at the end of the day, he's all like, we got to do what's good for the hospital, and who cares if the patient dies? Which of course is very much not necessarily the case. By the time the series is over, he's not like that, which is why he ends up in the Heroes of the Bowl as opposed to our to the Depths villain series. So Dr. Bob Kelso, he was actually a Navy SEAL. He fought in the Vietnam War. He actually has the name Johnny tattooed on his ass, and he's an old sailing buddy. And if you went through what they went through, then you'd understand.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Generally speaking, Bob, I
wonder if Johnny was a pipe smoker.
That's a good question.
Let's talk about something else.
I was about to say, unfortunately, we'll never know, as Johnny is probably dead. But I will say this: he Bob Kelso, he did not have a great relationship with his wife. His wife Enid was always kind of a punchline in whatever crazy thing was going on in his life. And you always kind of felt bad for her, even though you never met her on the show. Constantly cheated on his wife. Oftentimes you actually saw him cheating on his wife on the show.
Wow.
His invalid wife. I should also kind of add that in there.
Okay.
It gets better. You know, I think it was about...
When do we get to the good guy part?
I think it was about season 3. After you've just seen this guy be this terrible person, constantly cheating on his wife, constantly kind of abusing his role as the hospital administrator, where he's constantly ditching the hospital to go out on all these elaborate vacations and spending the hospital's money that should go to caring for the patients on.
Yeah, just generally what doctors do.
Yeah. I mean, there was one time in particular where he actually bought he commissioned a portrait of himself in the hospital as opposed to buying a new CAT scan machine for the hospital.
Okay.
Yeah, because he felt like it was worth it. And so that's the thing. He was the villain in the first couple of seasons, but around the 3rd or 4th season, they did an episode where JD had to kind of write a paper or say something nice about Dr. Kelso. And they started to kind of peel the layers back on this character. And you actually saw that, the decisions he has to make are very, very difficult decisions.
Right.
And oftentimes, it's a life or death decision, but ends up being a life and death decision. In order for this program to be funded, we have to save this rich patient and let the poor patient die because the rich patient is a benefactor of the hospital.
Wow, these ethical conundrums.
Right. So they kind of peel back.
Bertrand Russell would have things to say about
I'm sure. I'm absolutely sure. But anyway, so that was the thing. You kind of saw like the way that his mind works to try to like make him not just this villain. They also did one particular episode where there's this mystery of this musical country music singer who some of the characters are convinced is actually Bob Kelso. And he constantly denies this until at the very end you realize that it is true. And the love songs that he wrote and sang were dedicated to his wife, who now apparently, of course, they have a terrible relationship. But there's this like nice moment where he calls her Bunny, which is the name of the song, and then she just kind of chews his head off. But regardless, so again, pulling back the layers a little bit, not necessarily that he's not a bad guy, but why he is such a bad guy, or at least the reasons he does what he does.
Yeah.
By the time the series was over, he started actually stepping a little bit more into that grandfatherly role. And typically in his best moments, he would actually have his pipe. If it was almost and this is kind of getting back to what I was saying.
I wonder if they use that imagery for some kind of device to make you more soft towards him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For time to time you'd kind of see it play in up until that point where there's one bit about the quote unquote smokers lounge, and he mistakes a Hispanic man for being a baseball player. Is insanely offensive. But anyway, it was while he was smoking his pipe there. There was one joke they made kind of early on too about how doctors are hypocritical. And so, a fat doctor would be telling his patient he's got to stop eating while the fat doctor is having a sausage or something of that nature. And then Dr. Kelso is getting in somebody's face while he's smoking his pipe, telling them they need to stop smoking immediately. And so it's just kind of this painting these kind of puns or these jokes and letting it kind of accentuate those jokes. But like I said, near the end, he started taking on this grandfatherly role. One scene in particular that kind of stands out to me is that later in the series, a character of Elliot Reed, who's a doctor in the hospital, she's contemplating this relationship that she has with the primary character.
One of the main female characers of the show, right?
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So she's dating JD. I almost called him John David because I mentally do that all the time. So she's dating JD, and she's just had a patient who died because her husband had passed before her, and she died of a broken heart, if you will. It's kind of this broken hearts disease.
Yeah.
And so, she was just like, I can't imagine ever being that emotionally connected to somebody that, I would literally die if they died, and just my body, my heart would give out. And so Dr. Kelso, they're sitting outside the hospital, he's smoking his pipe, and he's kind of telling her about, they've been married for all these years, and, sometimes this just happens, and he thinks it's kind of sweet. And it was kind of this really special moment. Other times he'll be on his park bench where he'll smoke his pipe and divulge some wisdom to some random intern or otherwise. But yeah, in the end, he does kind of become this grandfatherly figure where he is looking out and giving advice where he can. But admittedly, It's a stretch. Bob Kelso.
Yeah, and he takes the scenic route to get to become kind of likable, but we enjoy that.
I like to think what Scrubs did as a show is take a lot of characters and, like, for example, Dr. Cox is the quote unquote hero character, right? Like, he's the one that's constantly fighting for the patients, even though he's constantly like demeaning JD and telling him all these terrible things about him. And all JD does is he wants Dr. Cox to love him, but Dr. Cox is just saying terrible things. And then behind JD's back, he's like a son to me, like he's got this heart of gold type deal. And I feel like what that series did was it took all of these characters and said, here are all these people. We're going to make them insanely likable, but we're also going to show you how that they are terrible people. Yeah. Like they're constantly doing terrible things to one another, even though they're likable, because that's kind of human nature.
Humanity, right?
Yeah. And so there's in every single one of the characters they presented, there was still something good about them. And for Bob Kelso, that good thing was constantly associated with his pipe. So there you go.
Good call, man. I think that's good. Yeah, I like that.
I thought one other thing I'd throw in, of course, Bob Kelso was portrayed by the actor Ken Jenkins. I mentioned Elliot Reed, the character that Bob was giving wisdom to. There is a storyline with her where she has started working for another hospital, but she doesn't want anybody to know about it. And so her friend Carla has to keep this secret, which she has a hard time keeping secrets.
Okay.
And so in the end, she just finally had to tell somebody something. So she told Elliot, I didn't tell your secret, but now you smoke a pipe because I had to tell them something. And so Elliot Reed, for a very short time, becomes a pipe smoker.
Because of my pipe smoker herself.
Yeah, sort of. It's one of those things where, like,
she has to because of the secret.
Well, it's not even that. Like, the scene they shot of her in a park smoking her pipe, you can tell that is somebody who's never smoked a pipe a day in their life. There's no tobacco in that, and that is not lit. Like, it is very clear that she is not smoking a pipe. But for all intents and purposes, the character was supposed to. So anyway,
wonderful,
kind of interesting stuff there. So yeah, there you go, Bob Kelso.
That's great, man. Yeah, Heroes of the Bowl, dude. Good episode.
Yeah, man,
that's great. Yeah,
I always love doing that.
I love it when we do that too. It kind of gives us an opportunity to, find some interesting folks and dive into their, quirks and belief systems and all those other things.
I did want to make one last thing. I can't believe I didn't mention this because whenever we do pull somebody out from fiction, we typically like to talk about what they smoked. And while we don't know what Kelso's tobacco of choice was, whenever we did see him with the pipe, it was typically the same pipe. And by my estimation, it looks kind of like a bent apple.
Okay.
I've kind of picture pulled up. I don't know if you can kind of see that. I know his hand's kind of covering the bowl.
Yeah. It looks. I'd say that's an apple or a billiard, something like that.
Yeah. But definitely kind of a deep bend associated with it. So really cool pipe and great show. I love Scrubs. It was a great show.
Now it had a hit run and then it went off the air and then it came back on, right? Or it was picked up by like another network.
Picked up by another network, and then they closed out the season on that network, and then they relaunched another show with Scrubs season 9. I think they call it Intern Years or something like that. And in that season, it just never found its audience. What's James Franco's brother's name? You know what that is? I can't. I can't remember his name either. But I hate James Franco, but I actually kind of like his brother because his brother was in the show and he plays this kind of douchebag character. But I mean, it works. Like, it kind of works for the show. It was fine. Anyway,
wonderful.
That's Scrubs.
That's Scrubs, man.
That was Scrubs. It's a great show on Netflix. Binge watch it. At some point, I've joked before about wanting to do a podcast that is just Scrubs plus drinking game the entire time.
Yeah,
and
absolutely,
that's gonna be fun. But you know what else is fun?
What's that, Bo?
Pipes.
You
know what kind of pipes are fun?
Man, particularly corncob pipes.
Especially corncob pipes from
Missouri Meerschaum.
That's right. That's right. Man, we got a great pipe that is sponsoring the show from the good folks at Missouri Meerschaum. The Diplomat pipe.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the most popular pipes of the Missouri Meerschaum lineup. It's the Diplomat has kind of a small apple bowl shape with a bent and a straight stem selection. Comes in with a really nice kind of dark plastic stem, which just really sets it off in a nice, classy way. So a medium to small size bowl. It's one of those that you can tuck in your pocket and take with you. And it has certainly a classic pipe shape, but has the distinction of the corncob look.
That's great, man. Yeah, those apple pipes are so gorgeous, and the particular cut of that bowl that they've got on this Diplomat pipe from Missouri Meerschaum is just exceptionally gorgeous. I want it. I want it now. And do you carry one of those right now?
We don't have any right now, okay. But the Diplomat also comes in a kind of a tall tankard billiard shape. But we did want to focus on the Apple one tonight because
just
it's just
so pretty.
it's such a pretty shiny shape.
Absolutely. All right. Pipe question of the week comes in from Fox H on Facebook. He also, by the way, sent in an iTunes review, which we'll talk about later. And it kind of plays into his question that he has for us today. He says, since you guys are deep into pipes and I'm a newbie, any thoughts on how I can get a Savinelli Bing's favorite rusticated? And then he kind of asks, should he go for, the price of a, hang on, let me state that back up.
Yeah, here we go.
Grace time here.
Cue it back up, babe.
Since you guys are deep into the pipe and I'm a newbie, any thoughts on how I can get a Savinelli Bing's favorite rusticated for the price of a Missouri Meerschaum? Should I wait for a sale? Should I travel to a con? Should I risk getting a fake on eBay? This is a pipe that I want for a briar, but it's too rich for my blood. So Fox H on Facebook, we're talking about a pipe that's near and dear to your heart.
It is.
What do you suggest, man?
It is. Yeah, man, the Savinelli Bings, I'm convinced, and I say this on multiple occasions, and they don't pay us a dime to say this. I'm just a big believer in a Bing's favorite. But, I'm convinced they use some of their best briar for this pipe. It has a very interesting line to it. It's very svelte, and the shank on it has a certain proportion to the bowl that I think is just very unique. And so I'm convinced they use really good briar for this particular shape. And you're just, the odds of you finding it for, under $50 or something like that are just very, very small unless you find it, at an estate sale or as a used pipe with a whole lot of miles on it. So occasionally you will find one that has some, light wear that, might be somewhere under, $80 or even $70. But yeah, as far as like fire sale prices with that particular pipe, I think you're going to need to save your shekels up and get you one. But I have to be honest, it's worth it. It's a wonderful smoke. It's one of those pipes that once you get kind of hooked on it, the shape itself just continually calls out to you. And I think you'll really enjoy it. So eat some ramen noodles, save your pennies, and get on there and see. Occasionally, you will find Bing's favorites that are, I think they typically, the rusticated ones, maybe retail MSRP is either 130, 120 or 130. I think the smooth are like 130, 140, something like that. And obviously on different sites you'll be able to find that at a discount price. But as far as like fire sale prices, I'd probably recommend you pinch your pennies a little bit. Yep.
It reminds me of there was a pipe, very specific pipe that I really wanted.
Yeah.
Kind of early in my pipe journey, so to speak, and it was a saddle bit, straight billiard pipe.
Yeah.
And it was the pipe that Robert Downey Jr. smoked in the first Sherlock Holmes movie.
Okay.
That he did.
Okay.
In the subsequent movie, he had a ton of different pipes in that one, but in the first movie, there was one in particular that was black. It was rusticated. It was straight. There was a design on the side of it, and that it has been questioned on the internet as to what, like, nobody can figure out exactly what this pipe is. And so even to this day, I mentally like have it on my mind whenever I look at pipes to see, is that if that one pops up, depending on the price, I will like snatch it up immediately. And if not, then I may put it on layaway.
There you go.
Price isn't right. So, I enjoy the hunt, but yeah, that's kind of fun thing.
It's part of the fun,
Yeah.
is trying to find a bargain out there. And again, you've got eBay, which, for all, general purposes, I mean, a lot of your sellers on there are going to be pretty reputable. And I think you'll find a lot of, good information on just the feedback that folks have left them. But, try places, my shop carries estate pipes. We've got, other brick and mortar shops around the country. It'd be worth maybe giving them a call to see, if they don't have it on their website, they might, have a corner in the shop where they've got some pipes that have been sitting around for a while. And they might tell you, hey, I've got these pipes I'm willing to make you a deal on. And I always don't be afraid to call a retailer, even if they, don't necessarily have something listed on their website. You got to remember we're a small shop, and there are hundreds of shops just like us across the country. And a lot of times we don't have the ability to regularly update our website with all our inventory. So you never know, there might be a shop tucked away in your part of the world that has a pipe sitting around that's been there for a few years and needs a loving home, and they might be willing to swing you a deal.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right, Fox. Good luck to you. And we'll hear more from him in the listener feedback portion. But really, really appreciate it. Quick fire questions. Ow! All right. These come in from thispipelife.com, the great community at thispipelife.com, from Piper Dave over there, who writes in. And this is kind of interesting. This is going to be very different from any quick fire questions we've done before. I think. I don't think we've done this before.
Yeah.
This is going to be one where we get two, and then they're going to float, like whatever we choose then goes against the next one.
Oh, okay.
All right.
All
right. So here we go. So plug or crumble cake?
Plug. Real easy for me to go with plug.
I think crumble cake.
I think you strike me as a crumble cake guy.
Yeah. Crumble cake's a little easier.
It's easier to deal with.
That's kind of a big part of it for me. Easier the better.
I like the process of it. I'm going to go with the plug.
All right, right on. All right, so I said crumble cake and you said plug.
Right.
Now we put that up against flake.
Flake. I have to go with flake.
Okay.
I love a flake tobacco. Well, I mean, essentially you've got a plug that's been sliced, but I love a flake. Pulling a flake apart and loading your. Matter of fact, saw me do it with my Vowin 14 and this J&J pipe that I've got right here in front of me. Right before the show, I was just going through my pre-show ritual of kind of loading my pipe up, and there's something about a flake that the process of tearing it apart. It just it gets me. I love a flake.
All right, fair enough. All right, so I'll go with flake as well.
Okay.
All right, so then all right, here we go. So this again, we've got two, and then we're gonna put that up against the next one.
Right.
All right. Virginia or Burley?
I'm going to do Virginia's. Are you sure that was the one? Was it supposed to be the one right above it?
No. But see, this is I'm doing them where.
Got it. Yeah, definitely Virginia.
Okay.
I'm just a Virginia smoker. And most folks I think do think Virginias have a little more flavor to them, and they do. But I'm a sucker for a good Virginia.
You've kind of sold me on Virginia.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go with Virginia as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Burley, what is you say the Burley's like the tobacco's best friend?
It is. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's almost always going to be there. But I would go with Virginia as well.
Yeah.
All right. So the answer of that now put against Perique.
Okay. I don't feel like these are mutually exclusive, but that's not fair. So I have to go with Virginia.
Okay.
I almost always like a Virginia. If a Perique is done well, particularly with a certain type of Virginia, like a brighter yellow Virginia in my case, I love Perique, but in almost all cases, just a real clean Virginia tobacco, man, I'm game for that.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be with you on that one.
Yep.
I mean, you want to give it to the home team, but if I'm being honest.
Yep.
All right, and then last two are going to be more traditional here. You got Syrian or Cypern.
This is referring to Latakia, and so you've got Syrian Latakia, which is going to be a lot more nuanced, not quite as smoky, more floral. Cyprian, which is going to have that kind of bolder, more robust peaty flavor. They're both peaty, both smoky, both kind of have those campfire tones to them. But on average, I like the Syrian.
Okay. What do you think I would prefer more?
Probably Syrian.
Syrian?
Yep.
Okay. I'll go with that one because honestly, those two I'm not as well versed in.
Well, and you don't smoke a lot of Latakias either.
I don't.
Yeah. I mean, you tend to smoke, more aromatics, Virginia blends, and occasionally you'll smoke a nice English blend. I know.
Yeah, that's true.
I remember the one that got you hooked on that was the one you got at the Nat Sherman shop there there on Fifth Avenue. And there's just a whole host of those. If an English blend is done right with just the right proportion of Latakia, I'm like you. I'll smoke it. But on average, you and I both don't smoke a whole lot of Latakia.
This is true. This is true. All right. And then finally, pipe knife or reamer?
I'm going to go with a reamer, but that's because I clean used estate pipes all the time. Yeah. So, and reamers just make it really easy.
I think pipe knife. Now, isn't the pipe knife just the other part of the tool that?
Yeah.
Then pipe knife.
Yeah. That's all you need. Yeah. Typically.
Yeah. That's where I'm at. All right. Great quick fire questions. Again, those came in from Piper Dave, who is a member of thispipelife.com. Now, thispipelife.com, an amazing online community that you want to be a part of for a couple of different reasons. I mean, we've talked about before, of course, just the visual aesthetic of the website. When you go there, it's absolutely gorgeous, but also this wonderful forum community that is really, really great. We're on there. We pop in from time to time. I know I go in every single week because I like to gather up quick fire questions and kind of see what's going on. I'm sure that, of course, Pi Lawrence is in there as well. So with this new Texas pipe events endeavor,
you're going to be seeing more of that on this pipeline.
Definitely. So thispipelife.com, when you sign up, here's what you got to do. When you sign up, use the code CSR because it helps support this show. We really appreciate it when you do it. So thispipelife.com. All right, listener feedback. Okay, man. So first one is actually in from Facebook.
Yeah.
You want to read this one?
Yeah. Let's see. We've got greetings from. Hold on a second.
That's why I got you to read this one.
That's exactly right. Greetings from Lecheria, Venezuela.
Oh.
Let me say that again. Greetings from Lecheria, Venezuela. I look forward to the live broadcast. Life is good when you can kick back by the pool, enjoy some smuggled in squadron leader, and listen to some blessed Southern accents.
Hey.
He says, keep it up, gentlemen, Josh. So, man, that's awesome. All the way from Venezuela. That's great. Man, probably a beautiful part of the world. I've never been there.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. I always love the international thoughts and feedback whenever that's shared.
Yeah.
We also got on iTunes from Reformed Baptist who says,
this is great.
Not a great podcast. This is not a great podcast. It is the greatest podcast. I love the show and need to find a way to find the quote unquote back issues not available on iTunes. Not only did it convert me to the Briar Brotherhood, but it helped me pick my first tobacco, Lane 1Q, and pipe, a Missouri Meerschaum Country Gentleman. Love that pipe. And it helped me find Pastor Pipes on YouTube and thispipelife.com online. Thanks, guys, so much, not just for the fun in my ears, but for the community I've become a part of. And JD, when you're tired of that Bing's favorite, I know a good home it can retire to. Mine. So there's no indication that this is Fox, but I think this is Fox.
I mean, you never know.
That.
Yeah, I mean, just come get it from my cold dead hands. Right. Right. I love that pipe, dude. Yeah, thanks so much for writing in. We're glad we've been a good resource for you, and glad you're part of our community.
Mark VV on Twitter tweets in during the live show. He says he's late to the party, but it sounds like Bo is under the weather. Hope you're feeling better. Thanks, man. Yes, I have been suffering for the last couple of days. Today was particularly difficult. My wife doped me up with the stuff that you're not supposed to operate heavy machinery with earlier today. And I told my co-founder, my Satchel co-founder, Briar, this as I was driving him across town. So
in your piece of heavy machinery.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, I'm trying to recover before we get on the road, but I really appreciate that. Thanks so much.
And got several other tweets in from folks that are watching us live at different stages. Someone, let's see, at D Collar watching us while on duty at the fire station. He says it doesn't get much better than this.
There's a hero of the bowl.
Thank you for your service, my friend. We've got other folks that say, let's see, that got Denver the Last Dinosaur.
Yeah, I'm retweeting that right now.
Yeah, apparently that was the dinosaur that you were referring to at the beginning of the show.
That's right.
Is it a song? Right, is that right?
Right before you started talking about all these great philosophers and thinkers, I referenced Denver the Last Dinosaur,
a cartoon dinosaur from the 1990s. Right. Exactly. Yeah. And several others. We got John Griffin at Part-Time Try Hard. He's watching the live show while smoking some Blue Ribbon from the Country Squire, and he's working on his first carving his first pipe, which is kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, we got a couple of you guys tweeting them. I love it whenever y'all tweet pictures of like your screens and that you're watching the show while it's live. It's
amazing.
It is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But what I don't get is we had at least two people, John Griffin and just me, D Collar, who have a picture of their phones.
Yeah,
like they're watching on their phone, but they took a picture and they tweeted it in on another phone
with another phone.
I'm just.
How does that work?
I feel like I've been incepted here. This is crazy, but great stuff, guys. Thank y'all so much for all that wonderful feedback. Of course, we love getting these tweets in during the live show and having you guys be part of the process. If you get the opportunity, we'd love for you to join us for a live show. We broadcast live on Monday nights. That's our after-hour show, 6:30 p.m. Central. That's 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 Eastern. Oh my gosh, that's so much easier to do now that it's actually in the live notes. Y'all don't know what I'm talking about.
It's amazing.
It's the whole thing.
And it was such an easy fix.
It's such an easy fix. Why didn't I do that? Anyway, you can also keep up with us throughout the week. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at The Real Bo York.
I'm at John David Cole, or you can get us at the shop at _Country Squire.
And of course, the show is at Squire Radio. You can find links to all that and more, including the Facebook page and stuff. You can find it at countrysquireradio.com. One last reminder that next week we will be doing a pipe culture episode talking about pets. So if you've got a experience that involves your pipe and your pet or whatever it might be, we'd love to hear those stories. So send them in. CSR@podastery.com is the email, CSR@podastery.com. Or if you go to countrysquireradio.com, click contact. You can just fill it out right there and it sends directly to us as well.
Easy peasy.
Lemon squeezy.
Lemon squeezy.
There we go.
All right, man, I tell you what, this was fun tonight. I always enjoy kind of diving into interesting characters from the pipe brotherhood, not just of current times, but of long before, and of fiction. And I was tickled to just get here and get to smoke my Vowin 14 tonight. It was it was good for me. I needed it after a stressful day.
After you kind of took us through this great life and times historical piece, and then I just talked about Scrubs. It reminded me of the value that we bring to this show. You're the actual information, and I try to be entertaining.
No, dude, no. I just fake it, and you're a really good court jester. It works out great.
That's good. Well, hey, let's go have a night.
See you, brother.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the live show, guys. We'll see y'all next week.
It was great. Y'all have a good week. See you.
Absolutely.